The time LINSANITY took over the NBA, the untold truth. All right, so like I remember hearing this was a thing, right? Like Jeremy Lin, LINSANITY, but I don't really know like all the details about it. Right? I just know he went crazy for like I think it was like a stretch of maybe like a month, I think, of him just having like crazy games and stuff. But besides that, that's really just what I know, just a general, right? So I'm hoping this is gonna break it down and go into depth of what it really was and how big it really was, because to still be talked about years later, like way, down the road, this must have been a crazy stretch. Like how good was he? You know what I mean? So yeah, this is my first time reacting to LINSANITY, so let's just get right into it.
LINSANITY, a craze that swept the NBA unlike any other. One point guard,
this had to be
one
super
dream,
crazy,
but
right?
the entire world was watching. At the peak of LINSANITY, it seemed like Jeremy Lin could do no wrong.
Lin puts it up.
Damn, he gamed that shit.
Jeremy Lin from downtown.
Calderon?
He was that guy. And to be amazingly honest, he was that good. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Lin was the best player in the NBA, but his name was just as big as some of those who were. The Jeremy Lin hype, the LINSANITY hype was real. It was so real that I thought there was a chance, a small chance, maybe a microscopic chance, that when James Harden and Jeremy Lin teamed up in Houston, the beard would take a back seat and let Jeremy Lin take over.
What?
But of course, Jeremy Lin, LINSANITY, just like every other success,
he's gonna be the second option behind Jeremy Lin.
There's a story behind what Jeremy Lin had to go through to get to where he was, to where he is
crazy
today.
was this
Even though
run?
LINSANITY may have looked like an overnight success, you don't get that good by chance.
Nothing is
Jeremy
overnight
Lin
success.
played his college basketball at Harvard.
He played at Harvard?
Harvard. Despite averaging 16 and 18 points his junior and senior season, he went undrafted in the 2010 NBA draft.
That's an impressive
As a kid,
off the bat.
You could say Jeremy Lin loved to play basketball. You could say that was his passion. Both of Lin's parents, they weren't very tall. And Jeremy Lin, as a freshman in high school, he was only 5'3". And the story could have stopped right there, but it didn't. Jeremy Lin had a drive, an aggressiveness, and a passion that showed his coaches that he was no joke. He was the real deal. Lin's high school coach said there were only two things that Lin cared about, and that was making plays and winning games. Lin had an uncanny ability to step up and rise to the occasion when the lights were the brightest. Now keep in mind, this is a 5'3" freshman. This same 5'3" freshman would get called up to varsity for their team's playoff run. By Lin's senior year, he had grown physically to match the aggressiveness and maturity that this guy was already balling with. He was 6'2", now 180 pounds. He took his team, he took his high school team to a state championship where they would pull off the biggest of upsets. But there were no offers, not one. Shocking, right? Look, if you ask me, if you're a 5'3" freshman and you're playing varsity basketball and you grow to over 6 foot, I already know you're good enough. I already know you're a hooper. I already know you have the talent to play at the next level. No questions asked. If you were talented at 5'3", why wouldn't you be at 6 foot plus? Oh yeah, then you add in the fact that Lin had just led his team to a state championship, and you're telling me he's still not good enough? The one very unfortunate thing with recruiting is it's a very flawed process. I can't tell you how many guys I've seen good enough to play D1, good enough to play at the next level, just not get any looks. Be it because they were misused in high school or they simply didn't get the opportunity or the hype. But in this situation, I think it was much more deep than just opportunity or just hype. And Jeremy Lin, I think he'd agree with me. The only schools that were offering Lin guaranteed roster spots were Ivy League schools. So he ended up at Harvard. The lack of interest, it was disappointing. But that didn't stop Jeremy Lin. By his sophomore season, he was already averaging 12.6 points, and he would be named to the Ivy League's all-conference second team. The next year, he showed he was more than capable of going toe-to-toe with some of the nation's top programs and recruits. Jeremy Lin, all-conference. But it didn't stop there. When Harvard knocked off crosstown rival Boston College, it got real. For Lin's senior season, the awards just kept coming. The season was a record-setting one for both Lin and for his team. They took the school record for wins, and Lin would be all over Ivy League record books. During the 2010 draft combine, Lin would have some of the top metrics for speed and agility, alongside John Wall. You may have heard of him. Houston's general manager, Daryl Morey, stated that the Rockets' statistical model for prospects said that Jeremy Lin should have been drafted all the way inside of the top 20, and that his athleticism beat out that of every other prospect, but he still went undrafted. NBA teams had doubts about Lin's size and athleticism and his lack of elite competition playing in the Ivy League. I love when players have these stories of success coming from unlikely basketball programs, or just having to overcome a lot, period. Because to me, this makes their rise to success all the more sweet. And look, I'm not rooting for anybody to have to overcome a lot or have a tough journey. I'm just happy that these guys made it, and their stories, they hit a little bit different. One of my favorite artists, J. Cole. One of my favorite songs from J. Cole, Last Call. There's this part where Cole talks about not making the basketball team. He says he could have quit. Some people quit, some go harder. He chose to go harder. He chose to get into a state where he was so good that the coach simply couldn't keep him off. And while Lin not getting drafted may have been a minor roadblock in a long journey, things were just getting started. Lin would be offered a spot on the Mavs Summer League team. Shout out Donnie Nelson. Years later, Lin still speaks highly of Nelson, somebody that believed in him. A solid showing in the Summer League led to multiple offers from NBA teams. And Lin, you guys may or may not know this, but Lin was a Warrior. That was actually his first team. As the first NBA player of Chinese/Taiwanese descent, the Bay Area was buzzing. Keep in mind, this was a team with Steph Curry, Monta Ellis, and David Lee. Lin's debut would receive a standing ovation. You see, Lin wasn't just playing for himself. Lin's second season was tough. He would suffer a ligament injury during the NBA lockout. The Warriors, they would waive him. He would end up being signed by the Houston Rockets. What's up, Daryl Morey? To only play a few preseason minutes and be cut yet again. But Lin would be picked up by the New York Knicks. After moving to this major mega market, the possibilities were now endless. Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, Jeremy Lin. Melo in New York was enough. I mean, this guy was an absolute monster for the Knicks. Some people sleep on how good Prime Melo was, but boy, not me. A big-time scorer and somebody that could go off on any given night at any given time. Oh yeah, and Amari Stoudemire, don't get me started. Those Knicks were good for the NBA. As it stands to this day, I think New York is one of the most unlucky teams in NBA history. But I got mad love for him. The first half of the season, Lin would barely play.
I was gonna say, how did he get a chance to play?
11 run, with no BD and the veteran point guards on the Knicks struggling, and Y was running low on options. Lin was next up, and LINSANITY was on the horizon.
So they gave him a shot to. Let me shut up. Let me see what
happens. During halftime of that game, Carmelo Anthony suggested that D'Antoni let Lin get more run in the second half. He delivered the victory and earned the post-game praise. But hey, forget the praise. What we cared about was the starting spot. And Lin was there. He started the next game. With Lin in the starting lineup, the Knicks ripped off 7 straight games. The entire country took notice. Not just the country, the world. LINSANITY was bigger than anything I had ever seen before. Lin's 136 points in his first 5 starts were the most from any player since the NBA and ABA merger in 1976. Do you guys understand how long ago 1976 was? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was hooping. Pistol Pete, some absolute legends. The meta wasn't isolation, then a three-point ball. These guys were shooting hook shots. Hey, the hook shot's a great shot. These guys didn't even have a three-point line. They couldn't shoot the 3 ball if they even wanted to. But you guys get my point. Jeremy Lin, had taken over NY. But of course, like I said, not just NY, the entire world. But hey, at least tickets were still cheap. $43 for the cheapest seat in the house. Oh wait, that was before LINSANITY. During LINSANITY, if you wanted a ticket to a Knicks game, you now had to pay $183. Business was booming, and so was Jeremy Lin. With the Lakers in town, Lin would drop 38. And if you, for some reason, still had not been paying attention, then now you were. He was creating his own shot, not just for himself, but for others. He was slashing, driving, attacking the basket at will. Lin, he was a problem. The first team to slow down LINSANITY? The Big Three Miami Heat. LeBron James, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade. One of the greatest players of all time, arguably one of the greatest shooting guards of all time, and a big who in my opinion should be a Hall of Famer. This team had dedicated their entire defense to stopping one undrafted kid from Harvard. Lin called the experience flattering yet terrifying at the exact same time. Injuries would cut Jeremy Lin's season surprisingly short. And to most of the surprise of the basketball world, the Knicks weren't able to retain Jeremy Lin.
That's fucked up.
The Rockets offered a notoriously interesting contract that the Knicks simply wouldn't match. Some say the trade for James Harden before the start of the season changed the entire trajectory of Jeremy Lin's career. Who knows exactly what would have happened
because if Harden didn't get traded, bro, that would have been his team.
New York. If the trade for the beard doesn't happen, or if the Rockets simply did a better job of incorporating Lin maybe hadn't emerged yet. But hey, it's hard to complain. Lin's career has been an amazing one.
That's tough.
He's broken countless stereotypes.
He was on
became a world champion, and he'll be recognized as such.
I know he was on the
talking right now, you may think, hey, his career's over, right? Well, no. Lin is still balling in China, and he's doing big things. His impact goes far beyond the basketball court. And Jeremy Lin, he says he has one regret about LINSANITY, and that's that he didn't soak up every second. But I think we all know it'll never be forgotten. Should I click the video on the screen right now?
All right, so I'm gonna be honest. I kind of wanted the video just on the LINSANITY, like the stretch, right, and how good he was during that time. This was more of a kind of just overall his journey from, you know, his basketball journey from high school to the end. I really wanted a full in-depth just on the LINSANITY, but I got some questions, bro. I know y'all gonna answer me down below. So they just gave him a chance, right, to hoop, and he was performing. And so it said he got injured, like he dealt with some injuries, and that's like what stopped the LINSANITY, I guess. And he never recovered from those injuries. Like he was never the same player after those injuries. But I mean, so all of this happened in like, let me look it up, bro, just to make sure how long the run was for. All right, so it doesn't give me the exact like run, but it says like 26 games. 26 games is probably like 2 to 3 weeks, right? Maybe a month. But let's just say a month, right? He had that run for a month. So during that month, he did something that's still talked about, bro. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if it's ever gonna be forgotten. You know what I mean? So, like that's what I wanted to get into. I wanted to get into just how good he was during that stretch of time, bro. Cause you know what I mean? Like to do what you did and to be remembered like way after for 26 games, like it had to be crazy. But at the same time, it must have been super impressive because let's keep it 100, bro. Like back then, you know, there was a stigma around like Asian players, you know what I mean, that they weren't good enough, or you know, it was basically there was stigma around every like what was it like European players too, you know what I mean? Like anybody that wasn't American, there was like a stigma around that they weren't good enough too. So that must have played a role in it. But yeah, man, like I said, I really wanted a video just on the LINSANITY run. Maybe I'll find one if you guys have a video that will explain it better, just the LINSANITY run. Leave it down below in the comments, alright? But that's gonna do it for this one. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.